Alright, so this is what I was able to get for actually a total of $1,822. I'm going to go ahead and get all this stuff unboxed, and I'm going to start breadboard testing it, and then I'll start assembling it and bring you guys along. So it's a Ryzen 7 5700X with the Mag Core Liquid 360 RV2 as a cooler, a 3080 EVGA XC3 3080. I ended up going with a little slower RAM, 3200 megahertz. I had an $1,800 limit for this build. I'm building it for a friend. That's the budget he gave me. So Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro is 3200 megahertz because the 3600 was about $40 more. And then I've got this 1 terabyte NVMe M.2. I got the ROG Strix 1000 watt power supply unit, and I got this Antec case. Funny story is I thought the Antec case, well, I had the Asus Tough case, but it didn't have a little window for the power supply unit to show through, because originally I thought this power supply had an IPS display on it so you could see the wattage draw, but that was the upgraded model from this one, so don't have that one with this one. And it's all going to be on this Gigabyte B550 Elite Aorus motherboard. So I'll start putting it all together and then, show you all what to do. As you can see, it's a Ryzen 5 5700X. If any of you have never installed a processor before, there is a little tiny dot right here on this corner that aligns with the dot here, and you will take this out, set it down, and you see how it just fell into place. That's all I'm doing. And then it's seated correctly, it's not sitting funky. Lock it in place. These will go into slot 2 and 4. Anyone who's wondering what size screws these are Phillips number 1s, which nobody has because the standard screwdriver is a Phillips number 2. The screwdriver is non-magnetic, so I know a trick. To make a non-magnetic screwdriver magnetic, just run it on a magnet. See? And now it will hold that screw. Let me take this. Remember to peel that off. Well, since this doesn't have an integrated graphics card, I do have to install the graphics card. This is a support bracket for some reason. I love these little silicone sleeves. I don't know why. I just enjoy them. And everybody's favorite moment. Alright, that is seated in there. Peel off this plastic too. Let's see what they give you for $140. It looks like they just clip right in. Oh, I see. There's a ring that you install to go onto the brackets. Ah, that's very convenient. I thought I was going to need my own backing plate. I am going to be installing it in the top as an exhaust. And the actual pump and radiator itself. And all the accessory brackets. Honestly, I think you're paying like an extra $20 just for universal parts. That way, it's kind of unfortunate that they put this cable going this way because it has to come this way and go around instead of staying hidden in the back. Oh well. You know, breadboarding is kind of a old school thing to do. And I don't know if anybody knows the term anymore. It's basically when you lay the motherboard out all set up, everything outside of the case, and then turn it on, make sure it runs. So you don't have to disassemble everything back out of the computer when something's DOA and you don't know what it is. Because I have a lot of spare parts that I can troubleshoot with. I always do it just because I have had bad parts, and you know, sometimes it's working outside of the computer case and then you install everything and then it's not working. So the motherboard might have a short to the case somewhere, and you know, it's causing an issue if it works outside of the PC, you know, outside of the PC case. Get this jumble of wires moved and get this on the motherboard. One thing I forgot about is unpacking this. Comes with some magnetic 100% gamer approved magnets, cable ties, reusable ones, zip ties, instructions on the magnets, and the instructions of the manual itself. It's only actually 2 pages. The rest of it is just other languages. Okay. Power supply screws. Comes in a fancy bag. You can tell if they're good power supplies if the total output is 1000 watts on the 12 volt rail, if it can do that. Anyways, what I was getting at before is there's the 5 volt, the 3.3 volt, and then the 12 volt rail. And if it can do 1000 watts on the 12 volt rail, that's what you want, because if it can't do 1000 watts on the 12 volt rail and it only has like, you know, 800 for instance, that means that 200 watts are basically reserved for the 5 volt and the 3.3 volt, and if those aren't being used and this isn't being used as well, it messes with the amperage, the amount of amperage it can supply to the 5 volt and the 3 volt, and it can, or I've heard of people saying that it causes harm, but I mean, I don't know. I guess there's not really any, you know, evidence facing the other way, and that anybody has like taken apart and done a scientific study on it to tell you that that's why their computer failed. So either way, a good indication to tell if you have a good power supply is if you can have 1000 volt or 1000 watts, the full whatever watts the power supply is rated at. If it's 650, you can have 650 on the 12 volt rail. That means you're good to go. If you have 1000, you'll have 1000 on the 12 volt rail as well. It means this power supply is great. I'm just gonna put this on here and loosely screw it in. Much debate about thermal paste. Well, that doesn't seem right. That don't seem right at all. It's probably because I have them inside out. There we go. Alright, now that that whole cable fiasco is sorted out with the fans, the LEDs, I'll go ahead and hook up everything else. Alright, I gotta turn the power switch on. And jump the pins. Well, it seems to be running.
Do you have a post? Great. Now I can start getting into the case and get all set up.
Let's see if I like this case. Just gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. Apparently this is a reverse fan, which I shall be installing like that. It's nice of them to have this fan header back here. Oh, and there's RGB hookups. That's good too. Yes, I like the case. Well, I say that now. I haven't tried to actually build in it yet. We're gonna go with the red Japanese speed letters. Plug in your RGB stuff if you like that. If you watch my other videos, I don't really like RGB, but everyone else does. There's not really much I can do about it. Nothing wrong with it, I just don't like very bright computers. So, it does fit, but I mean, that joint is close. I feel like they were washers. I'm gonna use those. I lied, there are no washers. Here comes the fun part.
So this is what it looks like now. Not the greatest, but better than nothing. And we're just done. Now all I have to do is hook it up, install Windows, should be good to go. I mean, you know, check temps and everything with it running. Make sure the cooler is working. And, oh yeah. One of those nuggies. Alright, let's see if it powers on. Gotta hit the switch. Wow, seems to be working. Success! Well, it took about 3 minutes. So I'm not exactly sure why, but I was running the computer, it worked with a breadboard, I installed everything inside of it, and I swapped the RAM with known good RAM. I did some stress testing and it was fine, and then I started installing updates and I started getting hangs and freezes and blue screens, and every time I got a blue screen it was a different error. And then I, tried flashing the BIOS to update it. It got to the point where it was rebooting, but it wasn't getting past the splash screen for the motherboard. And then at one point, it wasn't even getting to the splash screen. It would just power on, all the fans would come up. It would come up with a black screen with the blinking dot or blinking underscore, basically saying that it's working. And that would just be a frozen line in the screen. So, I mean, I had display, everything was on, it was running, it was getting power, the processor was doing something. So I tried to flash the BIOS after that. After I got it to load into Windows one time, and it did flash the BIOS completely, didn't change anything. I tried swapping the RAM with good known RAM, it didn't change anything. And at this point, I think the motherboard is bad, so I'm going to have to take it back out after I did all that work of making the wires all nice and tight back there, and now I just have to do it again. Sometimes you own the road, sometimes the road owns you. Alright, I thought this would be good to see how well the, my X dot method covers the CPU. Is, gotta take it apart anyways. Might as well just show y'all. Ah, perfect coverage. Well, would you look at that? So, quick update. I replaced the motherboard in the computer. I hooked all the wires back up, ran everything back together. Got it all back together. Went upstairs, turned it on, it runs perfectly fine. I stress tested it, I put games on it, I tested it for about 2 hours. Everything was great, so the motherboard was bad from the factory. That is a done PC build.